Something you need to know about me. I was a friggin' baby once. I mean, yeah, I guess we all were, but I mean, I was scared of everything. I had arachnophobia for a while, I was scared of the dark, I had a fear of school binders closing really fast and pinching my fingers. In fact, I think my fears about random little things were what would eventually fuel my interest in horror movies. Now I'm just desensitized to horror tropes, and I'm more scared by tangible concepts, like nuclear war, or the Earth becoming uninhabitable in 50 years, or those persistent annoying nightmares about going back to high school as an adult. I missed the day of an important test, and now I have to redo the semester. You know, normal shit. But yeah, trauma that reflects real life isn't as fun to talk about as recalling the time you got spooked by a scary face in a cartoon, when your brain still had the consistency of silly putty. Yeah, that's usually more relatable, right? There's usually a scene or moment from a show or movie that scares the shit out of you and leaves a deeply rooted fear of something that doesn't go away for years. And you can share them with strangers and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. It scared me too. I remember watching the video Your Movie Sucks did about his childhood trauma a long time ago and thinking, yeah, I want to do something like this too. And now I have an audience, so I can tell such stories. This video is probably going to be a little chaotic. The things that scared me range from video games to book covers to TV shows to movies. But yeah, get comfortable, turn the lights off, and prepare to be spooked by these completely harmless things that scared me specifically when I had a smoother brain. Oh, and just to be clear, I'm talking like between ages 4 and 10. I'm not including the creepypasta phase I had when I was like 12, and that was more of a fascination with them than what I would consider childhood trauma. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Here's one that wasn't necessarily dark and evil and twisted, but just something that stuck with me. We're starting small here. We'll get to the genuinely spooky stuff later, don't worry. I was a Pokemon kid. I loved the franchise. Forming friendships with unique little creatures and raising them to become super powerful, it's something that greatly appealed to me. I've moved on to other games since then, but I still have a soft spot for the franchise. Even if recent releases have been unmitigated disasters, like seriously, what was up with that Scarlet and Violet launch? The only new one I've played recently is Legends Arceus, and yeah, it's pretty fun. But I'm getting off topic. One of the first games I got with my Nintendo DS was Pokemon Ranger: Shadows of Almia. See, in this game you capture Pokemon not with a standard Pokeball, but with a thing called a styler, you know, like a Nintendo DS stylus. And you use the Pokemon you tame to perform tasks that are required to progress, like breaking boulders in crates or putting out fires. After the Pokemon has performed the task, you release it. There is one Pokemon you get to keep, however, a partner Pokemon. There are two methods of saving in this game. One is by quick saving, which lets you save anywhere, and the other is through a save station. If you get a game over, you get sent back to the save station. The quick saves aren't permanent. So when I got to Gastrodon's cave here and lost to it, I was sent all the way back to the school area at the start of the game. It sucked. As an impatient 8-year-old, I hated that, and I think that's what makes me compulsively save in JRPGs now. But that's not the traumatic part. See, when you get a game over, this really sad piano piece plays. Your player character is slumped over, motionless, defeated. And not only do your temporary Pokemon leave, but your partner does too. Your main man, your best friend, the one you've spent the last several hours with, it leaves you. Your relationship was never real. The capture styler just made it respect you artificially. You were never friends. The moment you lost control of it, it wants nothing to do with you. So yeah, thoughts like that running through an 8-year-old's brain are not comforting. I did eventually finish the game and learned from my save-related mistakes, but yeah, there's something disquieting about this game's game over screen. Oh, and the low health sound effect in this game is alarming. It's this urgent beeping sound, and it still kind of makes me a little anxious. But trauma aside, it was honestly a pretty fun game to revisit. I haven't played it in close to a decade. The process of getting footage for this game was pretty nostalgic, and it could be rose-tinted glasses, but I think Shadows of Almia holds up pretty well. I also got some use out of my Wii U for the first time in forever. Yeah, I'm one of the 5 people who owns one. And it's much better for games that make such heavy use of the stylus like this one, than emulating it on PC where I'd be forced to use the mouse. This is an instance where I prefer playing on real hardware just because of the stylus. Of course, you can't experience it like this anymore legally. The Wii U shop isn't accessible anymore. But now I'm getting off topic, let's move things back onto childhood trauma. I was a big Thomas the Tank Engine head for a while. It was one of the first big things I ever got into. I must have been like 4 or 5 at the time. I owned all the wooden train sets, and I'd make all these big tracks and... Wait, I still have those? Wait, hang, quick break. I've got something to do here. Anyways, for a show as sanitized as Thomas the friggin' Tank Engine, it's surprising that there even is something to find scary. But here we are with the episode titled Rusty and the Boulder. In it, a diesel engine named Rusty is worried about a mysterious boulder sitting on top of a mountain causing rockfalls and landslides. It turns out that the boulder is sentient, and it has a face, and it endlessly pursues its target. It doesn't abide by the laws of physics either. There's a point in the episode where it sneaks up behind Rusty. It never actually crushes the trains, but we get an example of what happens when it smashes into something, when it nearly crushes Percy and causes a shed nearby to burst into flames. The concept of this giant sentient ball that you can't stop, whose only motivation is crushing you, is pretty wild for a dumb 4-year-old. I think some of my earliest night terrors were about the boulder. I dreaded it showing up in reruns of the show. The episode does have an amicable solution to the problem, and there are a couple more explicitly spooky episodes of this show, like the one with the ghost, but the Boulder one hit me more on a primal level.
I'm killing you. I'm killing you. I don't care about anything else. I don't give a shit about anything else. My programming is just get that fucking guy right now.
But yeah, that's all I've got for that. This next one is a little obscure. It's from this little cult science fiction film series called... The name is escaping me. It's called Galaxy Battle or something. Well, anyways, it's from the series' second entry, The Empire Strikes Back. I also don't think I'm shattering anyone's expectations by saying Empire is the best one. That's such a milquetoast take. But anyways, a little setup. The film's protagonist, Luke Skywalker, has traveled to the planet of Dagobah to train with the Jedi Master Yoda, a freaky little gremlin who steals hot dogs.
Put that down. No, Hey!
In this scene, Luke is warned about traveling into a dark cave.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you.
So he brings his weapons into this dark cave filled with snakes and lizards, when suddenly, the film's frame rate dips. Holy shit, it's Darth Vader. How did he get here? It doesn't matter, Luke's gotta fight him. So they have this little creepy slow motion fight with scary music playing, and Luke wins rather easily. In fact, he cuts off Vader's head. Vader's decapitated head rolls to the ground, bursts open, and reveals Luke's face in the helmet. Huh. That's not nightmare fuel at all. Yeah, this scene freaked me out as a kid. It's the setting, the music, the choppy frame rate, the bizarre reveal. It was sensory overload. Also, just the visceral action of cutting someone's head off, followed by the surreal reveal that it was Luke all along. With retrospect, this scene's actually got some decent foreshadowing. Yoda says the contents of the cave are whatever you bring in with you, so Luke encounters Vader. It's the baggage of Luke's dark origins combined with the message about violence being a path to the dark side. He easily decapitates Vader in the struggle, and his face is in the helmet. He could end up just like him. But yeah, I'm probably not the only one who was scared by this scene. It is a popular film after all. But yeah, let's move on to something less well known. At this point in my childhood, I was actively seeking out scary media. So, like a lot of kids, my interest gravitated towards the Goosebumps series of books written by R.L. Stine. Stine was an author who very much wrote by the seat of his pants. Going back and reading some of these, it's very obvious he was writing on deadlines, reusing character archetypes and plot beats constantly. Like, seriously, you can make it a drinking game how many times a chapter ends with a fake-out scare, and the next one starts with, haha, fooled ya, pranked ya. It's not gripping literature. It was written with a young demographic in mind. But even with that in mind, these books still have great kid-friendly horror concepts. I would eventually discover the 90s Goosebumps television show.
You will beware. You're in for a scare.
This is how I sated my interest in horror media before I was allowed to see scary movies. Overall, like the books, the show definitely doesn't hold up.
Mom! Dad!
The scripts are really cheesy, and the acting in general is pretty bad, but there is kind of a stinky charm to it. It's impressive how it's able to straddle the line between genuine nightmare fuel and silly kids shenanigans. Some episodes do it worse than others for sure, but it's still good entry-level horror. There are even a handful of outliers. In my rewatch, I found that The Girl Who Cried Monster is a genuinely decent little horror short. But yeah, a grand majority of them succumbed to the cheese.
Nice pup.
The show did consistently scare me when I was the target age demographic, so hey, it worked. Now, the nightmare fuel with the series is actually kinda justified. It was intended to be frightening to small children. I had a deeply rooted fear in monsters under the bed, so book covers like this certainly didn't help with that. Tim Jacobus's covers in general are really beautifully illustrated and fit the tone of the stories quite well. The moments that stuck with me the most were the twist endings at the end of certain episodes from the show. There was the Gill person at the end of Deep Trouble, the aliens at the end of Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, and this moment in particular from Bride of the Living Dummy.
Sorry, folks. Harrison doesn't live here anymore.
I refuse to provide context, but one episode that especially frightened me was the first part of a trilogy of episodes. A trilogy, if you will. No, seriously, it's called trilogy. I don't recall these being based on actual Goosebumps books, so they're the only original stories in the whole show. But the only episode I remember being freaked out by was part 1. Squeal of Fortune.
This isn't just any lemonade.
You got invaded the shade with Carl's lemonade.
The trilogy focuses on a miniature town called Carlsville, run by a guy named, well, Carl. 3 kids are transported to the town and each are subjected to an ironic horror event. Matthew wants to be a pro baseball player, so he gets trapped in a twisted baseball game. His brother, Todd, likes mailing in for prizes, so he's lured into the town with the promise of a grand prize. Jessica has an obsession with money. Like, seriously, her room is full of stock prices. It's taken to a comical extreme. I don't think any kid her age would be that interested in stock prices. If this came out today, she'd be scamming people with NFTs. Are those even around anymore? I hope they're not. Anyways, Carl offers her a job at a lemonade stand in his town. She just doesn't question any of this. When presented with the opportunity for money, she just forgets how she just got into this weird town out of nowhere and agrees to run the lemonade stand.
That would be a bargain at twice the price. Twice the price. Twice the price.
She quickly discovers that the townsfolk are willing to spend exorbitant amounts for the lemonade, so she gradually raises the prices until it backfires on her. The nightmare fuel begins when she gets TF'd into a pig as punishment for her greed.
He's nothing but a greedy little pig.
I know that wouldn't be scary to certain people. I've unfortunately seen some shit in my time on the internet, but it certainly freaked me out as a kid. Now though, I mean, the makeup is pretty freaky, that part is well done. But now I see that the episode itself is just kind of badly paced and lame. This is confounded by all the usual cheesiness of the show, so it really doesn't hold up as an adult. The trilogy does have a couple things going for it. Again, it scared me as a kid, so it clearly worked for the intended audience. The second episode is a little better than the first. You really get to feel for the Matt character, and the baseball game of doom is more funny in its surrealism than it is scary. When they bring out the guys in crappy monster suits, it's unintentionally really funny. They almost look like rejected Kamen Rider monsters. The guy playing Carl also seems to be having a good time. He's a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, these episodes aren't the best the show has to offer, which admittedly isn't a lot to begin with. But I enjoyed revisiting what I did for this video. It was almost therapeutic, realizing this show wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it was when I first watched it. As a side note, the packaging on the DVD box for Trilogy doesn't want you to see what the episodes look like. The cover is from the book cover of Monster Blood 3, and the back of the box has screenshots from the How I Got My Shrunken Head episode. What happened here? I mean, I guess it's because this is one of the few original stories the show had. It's not based on any of the books. So when it came time to market it, they just went ahead and used a random book cover. I mean, the giant feet is kind of like how the characters are giant in comparison to the miniature town, I guess. But why not even use screenshots from the episode on the back of the box? Ugh, whatever. This is probably one of the more fun videos I've got to work on. I got to rediscover these shows and games I honestly haven't thought about in a while. In the process of getting the Goosebumps footage, I ended up going to my local library for the first time in over a decade. It was nice. I think I'll be using it more often. I also went through a bunch of archival footage of when the show aired on Cartoon Network. I like how these commercials are styled after Grindhouse movie trailers. Of course that flew over my head at the time, but being a more seasoned horror fan now, largely in part thanks to Goosebumps, I appreciate it now. These promos made the show look a lot scarier than it actually was.
Goosebumps. 40 episodes of Goosebumps. 20 hours of Goosebumps.
I drink your blood. I eat your skin.
I got to play a pretty good Pokemon game again. I confronted a Thomas the Tank Engine episode that I thought I buried in the dark recesses of my mind. And Star Wars sure exists. I might do another one of these once I remember even more scary things from my childhood, but until then, thanks for watching. And now a readout of my patrons. Radiant GV, Waba, Alcoholic Alligators, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avok Robot, Dante Infante, Ziggy Zigra, It's Godzi, An Actual Dimetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you very much.